Welcome to today's video, which is about data. We're going to look at how I collect my data, how I then look at my data, who else looks at my data, what platforms I choose to use to analyze my data, and what then comes of it. So I hope you find this video super insightful. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, if you don't know what Surfshark is, it's a virtual private network, otherwise known as a VPN. What it does is it helps encrypt all your data and keep it safe, like the photos and videos you don't want your mother to see, or the big efforts that you don't want your competitors to see. And then all the important other stuff like credit card details and your internet browsing history. Now, I travel a lot, so I have to use dodgy internet Wi-Fi more often than not, which is a big target for hackers. And I'm also a massive fan of being able to change location. You know, for us cyclists, there could be a race geo-blocked in the location you're in, so what you can do is you can effectively make your computer move back to the UK, and then you can get Tour of Flanders or whatever you're wanting to watch. And the other obvious one is Netflix. Now, during lockdown, I thought I was going to complete Netflix, but then I could swap back to the UK and bring up all of my favourite series again. Surfshark are doing a big offer at the moment. All you need is the promo code, which is Dowsett in all capitals. That's 2 T's on the end. And you will get 84% off. I did have to double check to make sure that that was correct. And an extra 4 months free, which is a great deal. So there's nothing to lose here, guys. You can see in the description below a link to their website. So there's basically 4 main platforms that I actually use to look at my training. Often between device, like the cycling computer, whatever you're using, there will be a platform to then collect that data from the head unit. But then where that data then goes to, for me, I use mostly Training Peaks. That's the big one. Strava also. Now, Strava started life, I think, as a tool for us to virtually race each other, but now it actually provides some huge insight into race efforts for me personally. I use MyFitnessPal, which is a great phone-based program to track calorie intake. It just makes it quick and efficient. And Swift, which is more of a in-the-moment program to use for your training. Now, I'll start with Training Peaks, because Training Peaks is the program that I use the most. It's also the program that my coaches use the most as well. And certainly this year more than ever, there's been up to 15 people with access to my Training Peaks to analyse what I'm doing, which is more than there's ever been, and it can be quite intimidating. It was certainly quite intimidating at the start when it was that many people, but we're talking my personal coaches, coaches from the team, coaches from Team GB, and then nutritionists and physiotherapists, S&C coaches, so it really racked up. But it's good because everyone can offer insight and develop your training. Now, the process of going from bike ride to analysing training it starts with finishing your bike ride, saving the bike ride. Every pedal stroke is effectively measured, and then that's collated into a file, which is then uploaded via Bluetooth from your head unit to your phone, which is then distributed to all the apps. I will then get a recovery drink first, and normally when I'm drinking that recovery drink, I'll have a quick look at how that day's gone. And the big things I look at first is TSS. TSS stands for Training Stress Score, and it's not perfect, but it gives you a rough outline of how hard that day was. Now, that's measured in a number, and that number is relevant to your threshold, the amount of power you're doing, and the amount of time you spend on your bike. So if you were to have gone out and spent exactly 60 minutes at your functional threshold power, that would return a number of 100. If you were to go out and ride at half your threshold power for 2 hours, that would return a number also of 100. It's not a perfect gauge, but it gives you a rough idea. Certainly after races, it will tell you roughly how hard that race was. The second thing I look at, average power alongside normalized average power. Again, another gauge. Then I go for the peaks. So certainly in a race, it's just to see what my best sprints were, what my best short, intense efforts were, what my best 20 or 30 minute efforts were. Just to, again, this is all giving me a gauge of how hard that day was, which I can then relate into how I'm feeling. And the big thing is here, like one thing that you can now put into Training Peaks is how you're feeling, how hard you found it. And once you get going, at the moment I'm not at a high state of fitness, so everything is going around the 10 out of 10 all out level of intensity. But if the effort was very high, like is it in terms of how you felt, and the actually the numbers are quite low, then you know something might be up. Then when you get on the desktop version of Training Peaks, things can get a lot more involved. You just have, with a bigger screen, a much broader access to the graph, so you can start trying to pick apart individual sections of the race and trying to look at it, or individual sections of your training. So any intervals you did, any times you felt bad or good. Often my coaches will look at my heart rate throughout. My heart rate gradually increased, or if my heart rate stayed the same, and that can be linked then to nutrition on the bike, that can be linked to fitness. That then gets into the realms of things where my coaches actually seem to know more than I do, which is kind of the point of a coach. So the next platform I'm going to talk about is Strava. Now, like I said, Strava has developed a lot over the years and has become a very good training tool. And what I like about Strava more than anything is riders all seem to use it slightly differently. So it's super versatile. What I like to use it for, and probably what I've used it for most, is the Malden Club 10. If you follow me for a while, you'll know the Malden Club 10 is my training ground, it's my testing, it's my wind tunnel, it's my testing ground, it's my fitness test ground, and it's my arch nemesis. I've never created any segments on the Malden 10, but plenty of people have. So I look back at a ride on my Club 10, and then I compare it to every single other time I've done it, so I can see right in front of me in those specific segments whether something that I've tried during that time trial has worked or not, which has been super interesting. Now, the useful thing in terms of racing with Strava is everyone putting their data up afterwards. Now, there's a lot of pros that use Strava. Some guys hide their data, some guys put everything up. I personally put everything up because I've not really found a reason I like enough not to. Certainly in TTs, that you can then start analysing your pacing strategy against everyone else's. You can see where you gained time, you can see where you lost it, and that is super helpful. So that's what I use Strava for. I don't really use the training aspect of Strava as much because Training Peaks is so good at it, but I've never really delved into it. It's just Training Peaks has ticked every box, and every team that I've ridden for has used Training Peaks, so it just kind of keeps it all under one roof. I won't talk about Swift in this video because I think you all know that I'm a massive Swift fan and I use it a lot. It's like I said, it's very in the moment training. I don't think Swift has developed a sort of retrospective look at training afterwards, because there's a before, a during, and an after, and then there's MyFitnessPal, which is like I said, it's a phone-based app where if you eat something, usually someone else has eaten the same, and you can quickly and simply plug it in. You can scan barcodes on products, and normally those products will come up with all the calorie and sort of content around protein and carbs and all of that will come up, so you can align that. And then the good thing about that is your intake then directly goes up to the cloud and then drops back into Training Peaks, so everything comes back into Training Peaks, so all your data is stored there. So the next bit of this video, we're going to talk about what to do with the data, and that's more down to my coaches. They look at all the same data I look at, they look at it more in depth than I do, and what they'll then do is usually there is a set plan for training, but they will, if a training day has gone wrong, and this is the good thing about a personal coach as opposed to a fixed training plan. If a specific day, like say you're doing a 3-day block, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if Monday something gets in the way or you just can't do the training for whatever reason, that obviously changes things. Now, do you then continue with Tuesday, Wednesday and rest on Thursday? Or do you just shift the whole 3-day block along? And that's a rudimentary way of describing what a coach does. For us, when it's certainly, at the moment, it's pretty simple. It's just doing what I can and kind of letting my body get back into the swing of things. But when things are, when we're sort of targeting a big goal, my coach will be looking at my efforts and my heart rate and also my feedback, working out if it was hard, if it was easy, and then adjusting the next day in the running. And certainly in that taper phase or a heavy training block phase, this is really important. Obviously a heavy training block phase, we're running on the edge of doing not necessarily too much, but more than I can handle. And then in the tapering phase, it's doing enough, but not too much that I'm sort of going to come into an event with unnecessary fatigue. They'll be looking, like I said, similar data to what I'm looking at, but then also I think my coach specifically, I've noticed he studies heart rate drift much more than previous coaches have. He really pulls apart the intervals that I do, which is great, because he'll come back on the WhatsApp, we just chat via WhatsApp, and tell me that that I did a certain set really well or badly, and I'll have no idea. If I've stopped at traffic lights or something, he'll be able to see it. That's I think that's all I've got on data here. I hope you found that useful. Like I said, thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring this, and just a couple of quick ones on how you guys can effectively use your data. So I'll round this video off with 3 tips for using your data. The first one, if you're just starting with data, collect it all, but don't really look at it for a couple of weeks. Just do what you were doing, collect all the data, upload it to, I would recommend Training Peaks, but just don't look at it. And then start using it. Once you've got that data collected, then start looking at it. Start looking at it retrospectively, like maybe note down on a pen how you felt on that day. What you want to start doing is aligning your sensations with your data, knowing if you felt bad on a particular day, did anything in your day to show that up? So that's number 1. Number 2, look at your TSS, but don't live by it, because you can rinse yourself in a club time trial, but that's only going to give you a TSS of 33. You can do a 3-hour very easy ride and that will give you a higher TSS, but if it's me, I know I struggle after a club 10 far more than I struggle after an easy 3-hour ride. And the last tip is don't be scared to adjust it. That's what the data's there for. It's there to tell you, if it is there to consolidate you if you're feeling tired. It's there to tell you if actually you need to kick up the backside. It's there to help you tailor your training to you. So don't just upload it, use it, analyze it, look at it, and then train better. Thanks for watching, and you can get all the details in the description below.